This video is about Iowa State's road to the Big 12 championship game. Preseason prediction for Iowa State was they were 23rd in the rankings, just because they had a great coach and returning quarterback and a few other fifth-year seniors. And I was expecting, pretty sure everybody's expecting a fourth or fifth place rank in the Big 12 standings at the end of the season. With Brock Purdy and a lot of these seniors, there's really no expectation of decline, but also not much of a big increase. Starting with week 1 against Louisiana, it was a group of 5 team with a strong offense last year, and they finished 11-3, so a real respectable record. It doesn't look like that at the beginning of the season, but you got to keep in mind that things carry on to the next season. Up till halftime, Iowa State could not convert in that half and took an unexpected loss against them. But the defense still looked good in my opinion. My expectations were still low after that game. Moving forward to week 3 against Oklahoma. Oklahoma was our favorites to win the Big 12 and going to the college football playoffs. But they took a L last week to Kansas State. Breece Hall, the running back for Iowa State, he was shining in the spotlight. He had 139 yards and a tie-breaking touchdown late in the game, which finally, throughout the game, we got the lead. Spencer Rattler, the Oklahoma quarterback, he had 300 yards and 2 TDs, but the defense stepped up and grabbed a last-minute interception, and that's how we won the game. We won by 1 score, and we upsetted a really great team. Then going to week 5 against Oklahoma State. They were the leaders of the Big 12, so this was a big deal for us if we could beat them too. They had a somewhat mobile quarterback of Spencer Sanders and a monstrous running back, Chuba Hubbard. The defense for Iowa State held OSU to 10 points last half and caught 2 interceptions, one from Mike Rose. Offense stayed in the game pretty good. They outscored OSU in the last half. However, OSU's defense kept Purdy to 162 yards. After that loss, it seemed pretty obvious that ISU's competition is just a little too fierce in the Big 12 and for a shot to make it up there. And I was kind of doubting Brock Purdy at that time, too. He just wasn't meeting the expectations. He was considered a top 10 quarterback last year. He was actually top 5 in passing yards in 2019. Then we move forward, and we're in week 7, and this is the game against Baylor. It was looking like a disappointing game. We were behind 24-10 in the third quarter to an underperforming team, and we were racking up 4 turnovers too, so we were just a mess out there in the first half of this whole entire game. However, this is when I started seeing a great team. Offense scored 3 times before the fourth quarter and then scored again. It was incredible. I did not expect that coming into this last half. And then the ISU defense allowed a total of 71 rushing yards. Mike Rose got another interception, and so did Tavon Kyle. I saw great discipline, the entire team. They only allowed 1 penalty in that game. And after that comeback win, the team started to turn around. The second to last game of the regular season. This was a big deal. This was week 9 against Texas. The previous week, we beat Kansas State 0-45. It was incredible. All that was left was the Big 12 contender, Texas. If we were to win this game, we would surely solidify our spot to make it to the Big 12 championship game to play whoever was going to stand in the way of the title. Texas was no joke, I don't think. A team that's just really good at stopping the run game, which is kind of our best suit, was the run game. The game was getting stressful. Sam Ehlinger, the quarterback for Texas, was getting hot and comfortable throwing deep. But Connor Asali gave us a field goal at halftime, which made us only trail 10-13. Ashim Young's forced fumble and Lawrence Wright's recovery from that fumble helped us stay alive, though. Defense applied way more pressure in the fourth quarter. Latrell Brankston got 2 sacks on Sam Ehlinger. As a result, Texas had a really long field goal attempt, and they couldn't make it, and they couldn't tie the game. And honestly, I felt pretty comfortable winning it that way because I do not. Here's my rule of thumb: I do not like to have overtime games against the home team. You're just already at a disadvantage, especially when it's been since you're not really expected to win in this scenario to begin with. Brees Hall was contained pretty well, but 91 yards is still a lot. Offensively, Brock Purdy gave ISU a chance. He threw 312 yards. He just straight brought it downfield without turning it over, and that's what was going to win the games, the field goals and the red zone attempts. I mean, a special shout out to tight end Charlie Collard, who could be one of the top tight ends in the country. Maybe not the country, but definitely in the Big 12. He had 6 receptions for 131 yards. I mean, that's pretty great in my opinion. And after that week 9 win against Texas, we pretty much sealed the deal and we won week 10 against West Virginia, and we were officially leaders of the Big 12, and we were going to face whoever was going to stand in our way for the championship. It was just crazy. We took 2 L's, and then we won all these other games, and as a result, we're here. I mean, people want to knock on Iowa State for having that loss against Louisiana, but here's the thing. Louisiana only lost once, and they're currently in the college football playoff rankings. I think they're 17th. So, in a way, they helped us. They kept on winning, and it made our loss more of a quality loss rather than just some weak one-off loss. So, in a way, I think that helped improve our rankings in the college football playoff rankings because right now we're in 7th overall, and it might be higher, might be the same on the next ranking. I mean, just kind of talking with the overall schemes and the what I'm seeing on the pass, rush, offensive and defensively. Iowa State's pass, it's really they do not pass as much as they don't pass very often compared to the rush. When they do, it's just accurate. It's not like big yard plays. It's just to keeping themselves on the field because their time possession is not very long in games. And as I mentioned, Charlie Collard, he is a great tight end, but there's other great tight ends in that group too, including Chase Allen. And I think this is the best tight end group in the Big 12. They're just so big and so great. And then there's Iowa State's rush offense. They run the ball pretty normally, actually. They don't overdo it like Wisconsin does year over year. But when they do, it's the most efficient way and explosive rush offense in the Big 12. Iowa State averages the most yards per carry and rushing TDs in the Big 12 thanks to Brees Hall and company. They just take care of the ball, and they only average 1 turnover per game, and the run game only averages 0.5. So their run game takes care of the ball a little bit better than it does on the passing game. And then going on to the defensive side, Iowa State's pass defense, they allow a considerable amount of plays in yards, but they don't allow a lot of touchdown plays. They're 3rd in the Big 12 in touchdown and passing TDs allowed. It's just they allow over 10 first downs in a game. So 3rd and long is just very stressful to watch sometimes when Iowa State's defense is on the field. And then we're going on to the rush defense. This is my favorite part of the defense. Opponents against Iowa State run at them more than they pass, but ISU's defense steps up and they only allow 3.1 yards per carry. It's the least amount of rushing, and it's the least amount of rushing TDs in the Big 12, which is key to the defensive success. Iowa State's defense is very disciplined. They only allow 1 first down per game due to penalties. Their usage is very high on the defensive side. As I mentioned, their time possession is not high, so the defense is on the field a lot more than the offense. And even though they're overly used, in my opinion, they're still the 3rd best overall defense in the Big 12. Their offense does not get saved too much by penalties, so it's like I think it's like 1.3 first downs due to penalties. So that's kind of unfortunate. So that's why we don't stay in the field very often. Yeah, I mean, I would say ISU's rush offense and rush defense are their strongest traits. The pass game is really there just to bring them downfield so Brees Hall can do his thing and score some touchdowns. So let's talk about the actual game prediction for the Big 12 championship game. So the game is going to be in Dallas, Texas at AT&T Stadium. Iowa State will play the Oklahoma Sooners, a team they've already beaten before. Spencer Rattler and Oklahoma's pass offense is the best in the Big 12, no doubt. Probably top 5 in the country. They have the most yards, and they're just the most efficient. Their run game is pretty average, but it does not come up short in the red zone. Their opponents give them over 2 first downs from penalties, and they average the most first downs from the pass. Third and long could be scary to watch for them. They average 7.4 offensive penalties versus ISU's low 5.4. Since the ISU game, they've been keeping that ball absolutely safe, though. Oklahoma's kicker is actually one of the best in the Big 12, but their punter averages 39 yards, which is second to last. So Oklahoma can be anywhere close to the red zone, and they'll find a way to score. However, when they give it to their opponents, they put them in good position as well most often. OU has the best pass defense in the Big 12. Opponents average 55% quarterback completion and only 1 pass TD per game, which is pretty impressive, I think. And they have statistically the best run defense in the Big 12 in terms of yards allowed, but mainly because their opponents don't get too many first downs on them and they don't rush too often against them. But when their opponents actually get close to the red zone, their run defense actually comes up short. So remember that. But the defense is very undisciplined, unlike ISU. They're last in the Big 12 in penalties allowed. That's over 3 first downs allowed by penalty. They do not force fumbles, but they do average at least 1 interception per game, so Brock Purdy needs to be careful. It's going to be tough because OSU will have starters that missed that first game against ISU, and Lincoln Riley is an offensive genius, and he's used to the big stage. He's been to this game way too many times. OU is going to be stopped at the run game, but they're going to find a way to keep the ball downfield and score from the field goal from their kicker, or Spencer Rattler is going to throw TD. I mean, he might throw at least 2 against ISU's defense. I don't worry about Breece Hall. He's real consistent. He's the best in college football. Once he's in the red zone, it's a for sure choice to get him to make the play. Brock Purdy doesn't have to play the most explosive. He just needs to play the most efficient. He needs to put Breece in the run game in position to score. Very similar to what he did for Texas, I believe. I mean, hopefully he'll have better decision-making skills and know his role. I don't want him playing hero ball, essentially. And ISU needs to capitalize on every free play they get. I mean, any turnover, any penalty first down, they need to just find a way to use that momentum to keep going. I think Spencer will put on a show against ISU, but the fourth quarter, he'll probably be slowed down. The defense will start applying more pressure on him like they did last time. If ISU can keep them a touchdown behind in the final drives, I think the game is ISU's, because their kicker can kick far, and if it's like a 3-point difference and they go into overtime with ISU, I do not find that encouraging at all, just because they're used to being in overtime versus ISU doesn't go into overtime very often. Not to mention we're not very used to the big stage like OU is. Brock has prepared and matured so much since the beginning of the season, and I think this will be it. I think he will find a way to make things happen, and he will put the team in the best position possible without trying to jeopardize anything. I say Iowa State will win by 1 touchdown. That wraps up my analysis and my of the Iowa State schedule and predictions for the Big 12 game. And I just want to say lastly, I admire Matt Campbell. He's a great head coach, and he puts a lot of thought and care into his players. I mean, he turned this program around. I mean, it was a laughing stock in the state of Iowa. It wasn't that great in the Big 12 either. And he's done things that not a lot of coaches at Iowa State say they can do. I mean, if you would have told me 4 years ago we're going to go to the Big 12 championship game, I would have laughed. That does not seem feasible. I've seen the interview after he beat Texas, and he was just emotional. I mean, I like my coaches that can show that they care with their players. And seeing him get emotional and kind of made me emotional too. I mean, he acknowledges the fifth-year seniors, which I give praise to them too, sticking with the program and then being part of that process is something to be very proud of. You can carry on your life in the NFL or even your life outside the NFL. And I know these guys are going to remember these as the best time of their lives. I mean, it's just amazing of what they've accomplished, win or lose. And, I mean, it's going to be a tough game. I mean, Iowa State never lets big games be easy. They're gonna fight though. I mean, I'm gonna put them in the. I'm gonna say that they'll find a way to come out of this on top. I can't wait to see it. It's gonna be a great game, and whether or not, I'm proud of what they've done.